Good. So, hi guys, and welcome back to the Always Wild podcast. We're joined today by professional MMA fighter and Scotland's answer to Jordan Belford, Reece McEwan.
It makes me out to be like a tradesman. Wall Street.
Is that business degree you got in college?
Yeah, actually, I actually forget that I've got a business degree. That's quite bad, isn't it?
Did you think I was just making it up?
No, that's what someone actually made reference to that to me a couple of weeks ago. They were like, "Oh, you're using your business degree," and I was like, "I actually forgot I've got one." But yeah, it works.
So Reece, why don't you tell us a wee bit about yourself or what you can remember?
That's a good one. What do you want to know?
Just whatever you want to tell us. Just a wee.
I think you pretty much summed it up. A professional MMA fighter, fight out from the Griphouse gym in Glasgow on the t-shirts, and yeah, to be honest, that's me. I'm 26. I've had 2 professional fights. I've won them both by submission. I had an amateur career of an amateur record of 8 wins and 1 loss, and I've also had 2 professional kickboxing fights where I won them both by knockout. And I'm a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So that's my CV.
Because at one point you're the number 1 ranked amateur bantamweight in Scotland, weren't you?
Yeah, I was number 1. I think it was October 2019. I was in the number 1 spot. So, and then a couple of months later, I went pro.
So how was it? How did you get involved with the Griphouse? Because obviously you stay in Greenock.
Yeah. So when I first started training, I had this weird, you could probably say deluded mindset when I watched the UFC on TV, and I thought, I'm going to be good at that, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be a world champion at it. And I thought, if I'm going to do that, in order to do that, I need to train with the best people from day dot. So I searched the best MMA gym in Scotland, and the Griphouse came up. I went on the Griphouse's website, and I seen that Paul McVeigh trained there. And I knew who Paul was, and not personally, but I heard of him, and I thought, I want to train with him. He's the best, so I want to go and train with him. And I went up to the Griphouse and started there.
And didn't look back since?
No, I went to the Griphouse, and it took me a couple of months to get started, to be honest, with like consistency.
Yeah.
I would go up at the time. I would work in Sainsbury's part time, and I had like awful shifts where I would work 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night during the week, and I would be at uni all day during the day. So the only time I had to train was the weekend, and the only classes that were really on for me was Saturday mornings. So for the first 4 months, I would basically go up to the Griphouse on a Saturday, do the wrestling class, the jiu-jitsu class, and then do Dean's MMA class. For 4 months. That's the only training that I would get. And then and then I knocked off for uni at Easter, and that's when I never really looked back. I basically was in the gym every day, and now they can't get rid of me.
Because to do 3 classes in one day, that's an awful strenuous amount to do. Did you do anything before MMA? Like, did you play football or anything? Or?
I played football when I was 12 and 13, but nothing really. I went to the gym in my last year of school, just with some of my friends, but that was just that was me trying to do a training camp before I started training MMA. I had this misconception that I had to get big and strong before I trained there, but because I never went to the gym for so long after, it was kind of a waste of time. So nothing really.
Because it must have helped when you first started going to the Griphouse, because it seems that it's such a quite tight-knit team, and everybody kind of looks out for each other as well. Because when you were coming through with Richard Dixon at the same time as well, weren't you? And you two just seem to kind of bounce off each other really well, as if you're the best of pals.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think me and Dixon, we always joke in terms of personalities, we're the polar opposite. So that kind of the opposites just came together and made good pals. So yeah.
Because he seems to be channeling his inner Jordan Belford now. Because I had a look at his Instagram, and it's madness what he's doing. So
yeah, definitely, he's doing really well for himself, and it's great to see.
Yeah. So Do you feel that, see, living in the west of Scotland and being a professional athlete, do you think the cultures there ever clash?
In what sense?
Like in terms of like a lot of the Scottish, like west of Scotland cultures, like going out drinking, eating kebabs after a night of drinking, or, and other kind of stuff that's no really ideal for a professional athlete.
I think in life, like in general life, it's all about choices. And the choice that I'm making right now is just to go to the gym and commit everything that I can to the gym and training. I do think it's important to have like night outs and eat unhealthy food, but for me that's more of a reward than anything. Like a habit of mine, or like my routine involves the gym, go to the gym, training, pushing myself and eating clean. So if I was to get a night out, it's a reward, maybe at the end after a fight, or to eat some bad food, and that's just to tell myself, well done, you've earned this. Have your night out, have a wee bit of food, and then get back on it the next day. But again, for me, it comes down to choices, and that's the choice that I'm making.
It sounds like you're looking at it really well. Like you're not trying to kind of cut off what a huge part of being a young being a young man. Like you're
no,
still
totally. Still young. No, totally. I think for me it was like kind of, I was aware of that like before I started fighting, because when I first started training at the Griphouse, and I also train in Greenock at Inverclyde Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, when I first started training there, and I go back to like that sort of like deluded mindset at the start where I thought I'm going to be good at this, but I said to myself, when I do start, I'm going to apply myself in the best way that I can possible, so that I don't look back in this and go, I wish I gave it a wee bit more then. Oh, see, if I just done this, and I said, I'm not going to, when I do this, I'm going to do it the best way possible, and I'm not going to have any regrets looking back and wishing that I'd done it this way. So again, step one for me, in order to make sure that I didn't get caught up in going to night outs and any form of distraction, was the first summer holidays that I was training. I said to myself, I'm going to go out every weekend. Right? I'm not a big party animal, but I said every weekend, every Saturday night, I'm going to go out with my friends and I'm going to get it out of my system, so that I don't make the sacrifices at the wrong time. Because at the time I had no fights, I was just getting started. So I thought, I'm going to make the most of the time just now, because this is going to be the last time that I'm going to be able to do this. And it was, because the next year I was preparing for a fight. So when I look back, I'm like, no, you had that point. You're not like getting swayed away into going night outs and stuff, or any distraction that can take you away from the gym. I've had that, got it in my system, and now I'm on this path.
That's a really impressive mindset to have, especially as a guy that had never had a fight. Like, you knew the destination of where you were going to get to in your head, and you just made those sacrifices so early. And I think that's actually really commendable. And a lot of people out there who are looking for a career in mixed martial arts, or maybe just taking it up as a hobby that they can compete in, I think looking at the kind of the sacrifices you've done and the kind of blueprint that you're laying out, I think that could help a lot of people.
I think for me as well, it's just like, it is very cliche, but I do genuinely mean this, and I can't say it in any different way, but I'm just trying to be the best that I can be, and doing things at the best way possible. This is a very extreme. I remember talking to one of my friends, Ryan, a couple of weeks ago, and we were having like a similar conversation, and I was making a fried egg, right? And I was YouTubing how to make the perfect fried egg, right? It's an extreme example, but honestly, everything I do, I'm just trying to be the best that I can be at it. And especially when it comes down to like my profession, like being a fighter or planning to fight, I can't have any distractions, and it's as simple as that. If I'm distracted and my full attention is not on this fight or on this gym or in this training session, then I'm not making the most of, and I'm not applying myself the way that I should, and then I will have regrets. Yeah. And I can't have that.
That is, I'm just trying to kind of fathom everything that you've said there. And it's an extreme way of looking at it, but it's extremely impressive, because it's like the way you're talking, it's like quite similar to how like the top guys in the UFC talk about how they get started. And obviously, because that's the way McGregor used to be, and that's the way everybody kind of describes Conor McGregor, is like you could go for a day of fishing with McGregor, and he has to catch the bigger fish than you. He'll sit out all night till he can. And it sounds, but that's exactly the type of person that you are as well. Like, it's just
it's like your mind's always like reverting back to like, again, there's a when you watch interviews, and I can only speak for myself here, but I'm trying to say this in like the most humble way possible, without trying to sound like as if I got a big ego, but you'll listen to these fighters at the top level, like the McGregors or people who are the elite of the elite, and you'll watch them and you can relate to them, and you're like, they're normal humans, and they're saying things that I'm saying to my friends, or I'm saying to my training partners, or I'm hearing off my other training partners. The difference is they're just saying it to millions of people, and they're being heard of from millions of people, but they are very, very relative in terms of their journey, in terms of their mindset, their approach. So it's nice to hear that.
Because that's it. Everyone needs to start somewhere. You don't start off as the elite of the elite. You start off as a guy who walks into the gym for the first time, and it's just how you prepare your body and how you prepare your mindset that gets you to that elite status. So I think you're well on the right path.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and you make like the Griphouse or a fight gym, for example. Like, see everyone that you look up to and you see that's fighting out the gym, or that's got a black belt, brown belt, whatever belt, or they are good, and you look to them, you'll see something that they do well. The reality is, in their first day, they were rubbish. That is the reality. Aye. Every fighter that you watch on TV, there was a day that they walked in the gym and they were rubbish. Besides probably like 1% of the people out there, any sport that you watch, there was a day in their life where they were rubbish. And that's the way I see it. They've had to work hard and apply themselves to be at the level that they're at. So we're all human beings. So why can't you do that for yourself?
So do you feel then that kind of mental preparation for stuff like this, so like training your mind, is just as important as training your body? So like being able to overcome these kind of like small hurdles when you start out?
Definitely, your mindset is a skill in itself, so you have to develop that. I think we always focus on like getting over the hurdles and fighting adversity, but it's also important to train your brain and prepare yourself for the highs and not get too high on the highs. So like winning a fight, right, thinking that's me, I don't need to train anymore. Or you knock someone out and you think every fight's going to turn out like that. Every fight's going to be a first round finish. Or you tap someone out in the gym, you think that's it, I don't need to train with him again, completed it. Do you know what I mean? Like some ridiculous examples there, but your mindset's important to focus on to overcome the good things and overcome the bad things as well, and just always stay on that path and try to build you a bit better.
Do you think that's something that's helped you out with Griphouse? Because obviously Griphouse, it is, as you said, it's one of the best gyms in Scotland. So
yeah,
you're not going to go in, you're not going to dominate every training session. Like, there's got to be guys there, but guys in the mat that can dominate you in the mat. There's guys that can beat you in the striking. Do you think that keeps you kind of humble?
Definitely, that will keep you humble because your hardest rounds are in the gym. But I think it's more so the environment that you're coming around in. Like, are you in an environment where you're there to win? Or are you in an environment where you're there to learn? So if I train with someone who's a lot better than me, right, at any point they could probably knock me out. Like, to be realistic, if they up at a couple of years, they could knock me out if they want to. But that's not what we're training for. He's training with me to get better themselves and help me out, and I'm training with him to get better myself and help him out. So you're in an environment to learn rather than an environment to win, and I think that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, that's.
If that makes sense.
No, that absolutely does, because it sounds like the way you're saying it there is when you're in the gym, you're in there to all kind of bounce off each other. Like, you see some gyms that it's like sparring night's essentially a fight. But
yeah,
you know what it's like, guys go in there and they're not as good as the other guy. You hear the stories and the other guy absolutely wrecks him in sparring and the guy doesn't come back. So
yeah, definitely. There is a time, don't get me wrong, like, there is a time and a place for you to up the competition. Like, I will probably wait till the last minute to tap to submission. It's just because I'm stubborn and competitive. But when I do get tapped out, I'm not going to be like throwing everything in a tantrum. like, well done, let's go again. And I'll be chasing after that guy to be like, I'm going to try and not get subbed off that submission again.
Yeah.
So there is that element of competitiveness, but again, like I said, there's a difference between you and your pals literally just fighting in the gym, or are you actually sparring here?
Yeah. It's because there's like two extremes you could get. It's like, see the way, like, shoot the box, like the old Brazilian team used to spar, like they used to essentially knock each other out. And then you get like the ties, they just kind of slap each other, but kind of touch sparring. I think it's trying to get the medium between that, because that's coming up an awful lot more in conversation because of Max Holloway. But Max Holloway was saying that he doesn't spar anymore.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's like, and I actually listened to Max Holloway talk about that a couple of weeks ago, and he's saying that how like he knows how to fight. And a couple of years ago, I remember Brandon Gibson. You probably find that if you Google it, he'd done an interview on like experienced fighters having to spar. And his word of advice were like, as a beginner, you do need to spar. You need to learn how tough you are, if you can take a shot, etc., etc. Because you don't actually know how to fight anymore. Like, you don't know how to fight at that stage.
Yeah.
But when you are like, I don't know what kind of level, but when you are an experienced fighter, sparring is not necessarily as important because you have basically been through, you have had the stabilizers on and you can cycle. Like, to quote him, but I think it's, the more that you train, the more that you realise you can actually probably spar, if you want to make that comparison, like the ties. Like, you can spar every day, but it's how much head trauma are you taking? That's really what it comes down to. If you're in an environment where you and your training partners can go like 60-70%, you can get rounds on rounds. But if it's a fight, you're not going to do that, and you're not going to get as much information as you would if you just brought it down a wee bit and didn't try and kill each other.
And I think that's the important thing about MMA as well, because MMA, it's still quite a young sport, so it's always evolving, and I feel that's something that's progressing for the better. But I think more gyms will take that kind of outlook where, if we go 60-70%, we're not trying to kick each other's heads off. We'll get more out of the sessions and we'll get more out of our camps.
Totally. It's also hard to, because when you watch these guys talk, like, they'll say all the right things, right? Like, yeah, we do this, we do that, but you don't know. See, when you go to the gym, you probably find that they actually do have a fight. They're just showing face. Like, I've seen a few fighters saying I don't spar anymore, and then I'm seeing them post sparring clips, and I'm like, you definitely are sparring. Like, I don't know what you're calling that, but that's sparring. So that's why it's important to be in the right environment, so you're not getting caught up in, like, if I watch this interview and I'm like, yeah, I'm feeling great today, but deep down I'm not really feeling that good. So, like, you're watching someone through a screen and trying to get what they're telling you is real, is reality. Whereas the reality is you don't actually know what's going on. You could just be saying that.
You're essentially just getting a persona. So you could be saying, we don't really hit hard, but then there's just a corner of bodies in the Griphouse gym.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. It's you hear it all the time, like, this camp's amazing, this is the best fight of my life, and then they lose, and like, well, the reality is that I actually had broke my arm a week before the fight, and you're like, wasn't that 7 days ago though? So
it's all kind of like mind games. So let's see with your camps. Let's see, like, when you're doing your fight camps, before, how long do you stop sparring before a fight? But how long before a fight would you kind of stop sparring?
About a week before. But with that being said, it's not, even though it's a week before, it is still like, we're going to drop the intensity a wee bit. Like, don't try and kill each other. Like, I hate saying this because it's like, but like, get through the session, go through the motions, try what you're going to be doing in the fight, and don't injure the person that's fighting. Big instructions: do not injure them. But it's also on the fighter as well, because if I go and try and be 100% in that sparring session when I'm cutting weight and I'm 7 days out from a fight, then that's my own fault for getting injured. So to answer your question, sorry, I'll week before the fight.
Do you ever have any problems with your weight? Because you fight at bantamweight. Like, is that ever an issue? Or?
No, I'm a good size bantamweight, and my weight cuts are great. I recently started working with like a new nutrition team for my last fight, and I've been working with them since the year. They're called Fuel for Performance.
Oh, is that Jacob's team?
Jacob and Colin. Chris is working with them.
Aye, that's how I knew who they were there. I was pretending as if I'm on a first name basis with them. I'm not. He was just talking about them the other day.
But they're amazing. Like, again, I'm trying to come away from like the cliches that everyone says, but I don't have a fight at the moment, obviously. Well, potential ones, but I officially don't have a fight. And these guys are not only like they're full on in terms of like helping me with my weight, obviously, but my body, my training, and my sleep. Like, it's the whole package, and it's like I feel like I've got a 24-hour service with them. So in terms of my weight before, it's never been an issue, but it's definitely not going to be an issue now.
Because how do you feel now that you've got that? Now you're working with Fuel for Performance. Do you feel better when you're training? Do you feel a lot kind of more pumped up sort of idea?
Yeah, I'm definitely feel like maybe like before I've always had good nutrition, like but I just felt that it was maybe time for me to take it up another level in terms of like the actual weight cut. And I just felt that it was like I was at a level where I feel like I need to take this to the next level in terms of like being on point all the time, like an actual professional. And I've done that with my strength and conditioning as well. Like I would maybe only do strength and conditioning a wee bit here, and right, I've got a fight, let's get a block of strength and conditioning. Whereas now it's remote, it's all the time now. And when I go back to like what I was like in the beginning, I've had like a strength and conditioning coach, a nutrition coach, obviously Muay Thai and everything to do with my technical stuff since my second fight. So I built the foundations very early, and now it's just about building on them and making them even better. And that's what I've done by approaching Fuel for Performance, and that's exactly what they're doing. Like just now in terms of my weight, I could honestly make weight next week. I'm not even joking. I went into fights this like the last 10, 14 days. That's probably the weight that I would like to be at just now. And they've got me sitting at this weight comfortably, looking big, feeling good, and I've not even got a fight, so that's exciting.
Because that's probably one of the best ways to be as a professional athlete, especially coming up, because you know what any pullouts that you're able to step in, and that's sometimes like we've seen it with Reece McEwan.
Yeah,
that's how he got his call up to the big show, because it was a late call. I think the same happened to Julian Arosa in the summer as well. Like someone pulls out a couple of days or a week before the fight, and you're ready to go. You're in the 100%. You're feeling good.
I think for me as well, like before my weight cuts, when I say they were good, like I honestly I do mean that, like they were great. But what it comes down to is what I felt comfortable cutting water wise. I would be like, yeah, I'll cut this amount because I feel great and it's easy for me. But ultimately, it shouldn't really come down to how I feel. It should come down to like what's better for me or long term for my body. Like although I feel that I can honestly, I can cut 3-4 kilos and you wouldn't even see a difference in my mood. I won't stop talking and I'll be absolutely fine. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily good. That just means that I've got a strong mindset and I know that my weigh-in's nearly there. So I'm in good mood. I'm in a good mood. But again, that's what Fuel for Performance have coached me to learn. Like, it doesn't really come down to what you want, pal. It's what's better for your body.
And so, that's probably the best way to be. And I think that's sometimes where it's important to have like no outsiders, because like the guys over there, they work with MMA guys all the time, but they're looking in from outsiders' point of view, and they're not thinking just of this one fight. They're thinking of your longevity. So sometimes like fighters are like, obviously they're all tough as nails, but tough as old books. So you might need protected for yourself at times.
Yeah, it's like if I remember saying to Dean, like one time, like, see the amount of weight I cut, is that okay? And he's like, well, how do you feel? And I was like, I feel great. And he's like, great. It's like everybody's on the same page, but that's where maybe you may need to ask somebody from the outside that's not really like, they don't really care how I feel in a sense. It's just more about what's better for my body. Because how great really, you don't actually know how great it is. And maybe I'm just really happy because I'm like, I get to eat in like 12 hours. So
that
yeah.
It's like what these guys know. It's essentially it's like a direct science. It's spooky how much these guys know and how much they know about the body. So like, there's some folk out there that might be fully aware of what's happening to their body or how to keep their body in top condition. Whereas these guys, they know, and they know how to get the optimum out of you.
Definitely. Again, one of the changes, I felt that was the next level, but I would probably say, like, watching, because football's basically been the only sport that's going along with MMA, like, see when you watch an in-depth view of, like, have you ever watched like the All or Nothing stuff on Amazon Prime? If you're into
I've watched that. Say it like is that the stuff with Spurs?
Yeah, so I watched the stuff with Spurs, and although it is like not a documentary, but you get to have a little bit of an insight into what these guys get. And I know it's a completely different industry. That's like a multi-billion-pound industry, and these players are getting paid ridiculous amounts a week. But one thing I took away from that is I need to replicate that as much as possible. I need to have the physios, the nutrition, everything monitored, the great coaching, because they're professional athletes and so am I. So I need to have that. I need to invest in myself.
That's it, because although they get all that stuff provided, like, you obviously need to provide it yourself. So I think no one's going to provide it for you. So you watching these kind of documentaries and being able to take those wee bits of knowledge away, it kind of shows your intellect to the game as well, and shows that you're like a real, it's a cliche word to use, but it's because I've been watching a lot of like Dustin Poirier talking, and he always refers to himself as like a student of the game. And that's what it's like. Like, that's the vibe I'm getting for talking to you, that you're like a student of MMA, and you're just always there to learn and adapt.
Yeah, you can always get better. No matter how good you are, no matter how good you think you are, you can always get better. And if you at the minute you think that you can get better, then something's wrong, something bad, something. It's not a good sign anyway. That's what I'm trying to say. Because we were talking earlier on about stuttering. That's just to make up words.
Oh no, it's all right. I do it all the time. But see, people must watch these back and go, "That's not a word. That's not a word. You're making things up now. You're combining words." But because your last couple, like your 2 pro fights, it's been on Evolution of Combat.
Yeah.
How much notice do they give you before a fight? Are they quite quick, or is it lengthy?
When was it? January. Both fights I've probably had a couple of months. Because although you don't hear that you've got an opponent, it's like we're running a show, we'd like you to fight on it, and we'll more than likely get you a fight. But I'm like, perfect, right? There's a date. That's all that happens. Like, there's a date in mind, and then that's when the thinking and the visualization and all that comes into play. So a couple of months notice they've given me both times.
Because you were saying there that you fought in January. So January, that was the Evolution of Combat. That was obviously with no crowds. Because I was talking to Scott Malone. He headlined the event. So he was telling me a wee bit about it, and he was saying it was essentially an equestrian centre.
Yeah.
How was that, like, fighting with no fans? How did you find that?
Lots of people ask me this, and my truthful answer is it didn't feel that different. And the reason why it didn't feel that different is it comes down to like what you're visualizing in your preparation. So when I fought for the first fight in Evolution of Combat, I knew that the venue was sold out. I knew there wasn't a single ticket, so I knew preparing when I was walking out that the crowd were going to go wild, right? And I knew how many tickets I sold. I knew how many people were going to be there. So I prepared for that environment. And the same goes for the second fight. I knew there wasn't going to be a single person in that crowd. I knew there was going to be no music. I was a bit shocked that there was no ring announcer, but I knew it was going to be weird and different. So when everyone kept saying this is mental, innit, I was like, no, it's not. This is exactly what I prepared for. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen. The only thing is I was completely focused. I was like, anything that's different, don't worry, you prepare for it. I won the fight, right? And all I heard was, right? And I'm like, feel like a surprise party. I was like, right, where is everyone? Because I'm not in the zone anymore. The fight's done, the prep's done, everything's done. It's party time. I was like, where is everyone? And I was like, oh, so nothing. And everyone was like, right, get out of the cage. And I was like, what? So the fight itself, genuinely, like, nothing different. I obviously missed the crowd, but I couldn't think about that. I couldn't think that I was missing the crowd because I couldn't control it. I just had to focus on what I could control. But then when the fight was done, I was like, what is going on? This is mental, isn't it? And then I was involved in the conversation.
Because I remember actually watching you fight one of your during your amateur career, and it was against the guy Charlie Lou. I think it was at On Top Showdown.
I don't know what it was. The 2nd of June though, 2018.
Aye, because I remember.
Sad, isn't it?
I think Bungard was headlining that card.
It was, yeah.
And
He fought Niall Smith.
Yeah, and Chris Duncan was fighting Stephen Moore on it.
That's right.
So I was looking back. I was just thinking back there, and I was like, "That's a really good fucking card." Aye, because me and one of my mates went along because one of the guys for his gym was fighting a guy, Darren Crichton. I think that was his pro debut. I think that was his pro debut. Because you were fighting for the title as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I was that was my 2nd title defence.
Yeah, because that's when I first started hearing your name, because it was you. That's when it was like all the buzz was round about you and Richard at the time. Like we were watching listening to podcasts for the On Top show, and it was your names that just kept coming up and kept coming up. So you've obviously been around for a while. You had a great amateur career, 8-1. Your pro career's got off to a flyer. What's been the biggest differences for you between being an amateur MMA fighter and a pro MMA fighter?
As a fighter, I've just obviously gotten a lot better. Like, I feel that the amateur career was like me building the blocks, like putting the puzzles together into what kind of fighter that I'm going to be, or what fighter that I'm trying to be, and what kind of and coming across the toughest tests, and basically not building all the experience, because I will still be experienced and getting better, but trying to get as much information as possible in that time. Whereas now I'm not fixed on this, but I've established a good fighting style that I've been developing for years. I've developed a good mindset, good nutrition background, like building, like I was saying earlier, developing all the foundations to what you need to be doing. And now it's just about knocking all the foundations out of the park and just being better and going up the levels every fight. I look back at my amateur career, like, honestly, I mean this, I actually cringe a bit that I thought that going into the fights, I was like, I'm going to win this fight. I had no right to think that. I was rubbish. So that's that's the difference. Amateur, I was building the foundations of everything, and now it's just about building and making them even better. I hope that answers your question. It's kind of hard to answer that. No, but that's what I feel my amateur career was like. My coaches put that down to a T. Like the first 5 years were building the foundations, and now it's about making the next 5 years like greater.
I think you've updated that really, really well, actually, and I think that's something a lot of amateurs out there could learn from. Like, just take the time at amateur to learn, and try and like pad an amateur record, if that makes sense. Because once you hit pro, your amateur record essentially disappears.
But it's like one of a massive hatred of mine. Like, I don't hate a lot of things, but see, when I see amateurs, and I've seen it so many times, like, to an extent, you have to do this, right? You're not going to go in your first debut fight and fight an absolute monster. You have to build yourself up, of course, and get experience. But see, when I see experienced amateurs, like, don't want that fight. Nah, too dangerous for me. Dangerous for what? Like, you're fighting as a hobby. So go in and fight the best guy. See if you want to make a living out of it. And I'm only saying this because it's exactly what I've done. Go and fight the best guys that you can. And go and test. See if you win, great. You lose, great. You want to lose. You want to get tested. You want to face as many styles as you can. Go and compete in other sports as well. Build that experience up, because see, when you go professional, that's when the record starts to count. That's when you can take it a wee bit sensible and smart and change your approach a bit, because now there's a lot on the line. Your record counts. Promoters are after stuff. Like, now is where it's a job. You get paid to do it now. So take it a wee bit more and have a bit more intelligent approach. But whereas amateur, let's just build that experience and get those fights in. That would be my advice.
No, absolutely. I think, especially when you're fighting amateur, it can be applied to professional as well. But either win or learn. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'm laughing here because I'm probably talking out of bitterness because I got thrown into the rules, so I'm probably like, "Aye, on you go. Use it. Let's see how you do it."
but it's done you well. Like, you were 8-1 as an amateur, and you fought great guys, and you're 2-0 as a pro. So it's method in the madness.
You know, definitely. You thank Dean really for that. A couple of times he was like, "We're fighting this guy," and I was just like, "I don't know if that's a good idea," but I would never say that. Obviously, I can joke about it now, but I'd have to thank Dean Riley for that, and Guy Ramsey as well, because he got me some tough K1 fights.
Does your gym, do they ever kind of experience like a kind of bias in it? Like, no bias, that's not the wrong word, but do they ever get guys pulling out on like your guys because they know what gym you train at? If that makes sense.
See, for my first pro fight, I honestly, like, see, for my amateur, towards the tail end of my amateur career, I couldn't get fights. I fought K1 once just because I couldn't get a fight. Nobody would fight me. From my third fight, I remember going in for my fourth fight. I was meant to fight in a show called BC MMA, which is a Cage Warriors. It's a Cage Warriors affiliate, a Cage Warriors Academy.
Oh, yeah.
It's run by Jack Mason, and we were offered a title fight down there. I said, "Aye, cool, we'll take it." And I was fighting a guy, I'll never forget this, a guy who was 4-0, a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, and he rejected to fight me because I was too experienced. I had 3 amateur fights. He was 4-0, he had a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. He says, nah, he wouldn't take the fight against me. So, yeah, it's definitely hard. For my pro fight, I had 10 different opponents.
Really?
It got to a point, I've got messages with Dean Riley, right? It got to a point where Dean would send me a topology profile and I would just send laughing faces. Like, because he's like, "We've got this new opponent." And I was like, "I don't care. I honestly do not care."
Yeah.
And you've got my mum, my girlfriend, like, but you need, and I don't care. Just get me a fight. I'm going to win. Like, that's a bit cocky, but like that's the way I was in the preparation. I was like, just get me a fight. So yeah, it's hard. It's hard for us guys. Like, if I'm a debut guy from the Griphouse and across the board in Muay Thai or MMA, I should probably fight a guy from another gym. I can fight a guy from another gym with 2, 3, 4 fights, and that'll be the experience. Like, that'll be the experience gap, because we are at such a good gym. The level across the board is insane.
The reason I was asking you was because it was something that came up when I was talking to Ross Cooper, and for anyone that doesn't know, Ross Cooper fights out of the Scottish Hit Squad, which is one of the best gyms in Scotland, and that was something I'd never thought about. But he was saying to me, well, although with the COVID this year, like the year before that, he couldn't get any fights. Like, guys were accepting the fights, maybe going on his Instagram, seeing that he trains with Bungie, Paul, like those kind of guys, and then turning down the fights. And
yeah,
to me, this comes back to your point as well. Like what you were saying earlier, like you hate guys that look to pad their amateur record. Like, to me, I don't see the point in that. I think you should be looking to fight the best guys and test your skills against the best guys.
Yeah, you've got to come across as many styles as you want, because you just want to test yourself. That's it. See if you. Don't get me wrong, right? It comes into what you're in it for. See, if you're in it just to be a winner and get a couple of Instagram likes, go and fight a dummy. Like, that's pretty ruthless. But see if that's what you're in sport for, cool. But come out and say that. Don't come out and say you're going to be this. See, if you're going to come out and say you want to be the best, go fight the best. If you want to go out and you want to do it because you want to look cool and you want to sound great, come out and say that, and that's fine. Like, it goes back to like fighters who are like, I don't know, like YouTube stars, and they're saying they want to fight. I'm okay with it. They're coming out and they're saying that we don't really care about how good we are. We're coming out just to make a bit of noise. And they're achieving exactly what they're setting out to. But if you're going to come out and you're going to say that you're here to be the best, like, go and fight the best and put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah,
I almost forgot what that saying was there.
Absolutely. I think you make the great point there, because you'll see many guys that fight kind of essentially not great guys in the way up, and then they get signed to like a Bellator, or they get signed to a UFC, a Cage Warriors, and they get put up against a guy maybe not with the best record, but has fought fucking monsters his whole career, and their arses get handed to them. And the prime example I can think of that's Aaron Chalmers.
Yeah.
Like he was essentially doing what they do in boxing. He was doing a bit of can crushing, and they were like painting him out to be this world class fighter. And then he get his ass handed to him a couple of times, but play
yeah. I think I actually had a point there, but I forgot. But like, that was my point. Like, so what you'll get is like you'll get this false sense of reality. So you think that you will be better than you are. So say you fight, let's say you fight people that you should be beating, and you go maybe not in the first three. I would say the first two fights are like maybe confidence builders, but say you're like 7-0, right? And you've won 7 fights in the first or second round, and you finished everybody. You now believe that you're better than you actually are, and that's not through anyone's fault, but just it's down to poor matchmaking because you've not had a test. So in your 8th fight, maybe you go pro, maybe you have a tough fight. You come across one bit of adversity, and that high belief that you had is just going to go crashing right down because you've just realised that you're not as good as you think you are, and that's where the quit. That's where the quit comes in, and I feel that that's like probably the biggest downfall to why people leave the sport.
Yeah.
But just from what I see, like they think that they're better than they actually are, and they can't accept that. They thought they were invincible.
Yes, that's a really good point. And that comes back to Aaron Chalmers because he's now left the sport as well. But fair play to him. Really? I'm not gonna rip into the guy because he had the balls to go in the cage. But
that sounds like some. That's like, see when you do rip into somebody, you're like, no offense, but
no offense, but here comes an offensive comment.
Yeah, definitely.
So did you feel, let's see, losing in your it was quite early on in your amateur career, wasn't it? I think it was like your second or third fight you lost.
No, I lost my second last, so I was 7-0, and then I lost my 8th fight.
Did you think? Well, no, I'm talking shite. Do you feel that's helped you in the long run because you essentially know now how to lose?
And it's definitely. Definitely. There's so many things that I've said as well that I cringe after the fight, like, oh, I beat him the week after, like irrelevant things that really do not matter. Like to sum up my loss, like it's an experience. I learned a lot, and like every other fight, like I feel that if I won that fight, it might have came back and bit me, because I was fighting a guy who had 70 fights, who was a great fighter, 100%. I always get asked, like, do you think he's good? And I was like, well, he beat me, so yeah, I'm not going to turn around and say no. So it definitely taught me how to lose. And my first fight after that, a couple of weeks after that fight, actually, I tore my MCL. So that was the worst thing ever because I've lost my first fight and then I've pure nursing an injury and I can't train. But again, it gave me time to calm down, relax, and have a good mindset and thinking how I'm going to go and approach my next fight. And I won my next fight in 47 seconds because I didn't care. That fight was in the past. I didn't care that I lost or I won. And it's the same when I win a fight. I don't go into the next fight thinking I'm a winner. I go into the next fight looking to win the next fight, not thinking about the past. The loss was just part of the sport. You either win or you lose, and I lost that night.
Because it must help as well. Like we spoke about it kind of early on in the podcast about the environment there that you've got at the Griphouse, and you've all come under that kind of Dinky Ninja fight team banner, and you've got so much support there. Was that a big factor in helping you overcome your loss?
Massive, because so I always hear fighters like saying sorry, and I can't actually remember if I did say sorry, but when I went in the back, like, a couple of things. My one point will be my actions after the fight, and my second point will be going into the gym. So my first point was like my actions after. Like I wasn't thinking. I remember watching I was in the cage. I'm saying that wasn't glorious, killing me talking about this. And I was in the cage and I was looking, and I knew I lost, right? Because I was like, I've not done enough here. And I looked about, and I see his hand get raised. I'm seeing everybody after, and I'm taking it all in. I want to take all that feeling, everything in, because I'm like, I don't want to experience this again. Like, I just don't want to do it. And I was in the back, and I wasn't thinking about whether I won the fight or lost the fight. I was going over the fight with my coaches for about an hour, like asking them what went wrong here, like talking them through the fight, like what could I have done here, and diagnosing the fight right after. I've done that after wins as well, but that was my approach after the fight. I didn't care about the result. I wasn't crying and I lost this, and I was like, I don't, just tell me what could I have done better in this exchange and that exchange. And then the next day, right, everywhere you go, you think this is mental, right? But you think everybody's looking at you going, you're a loser, right? Every day you see, like, it could be anyone in the supermarket, like, he's buying food because he's a loser, but he's a loser. That's what you're thinking. So and I go to the gym Monday morning, people are going to be like not wanting to look at me and stuff, and everybody's like, hey, how you doing? Good fight the weekend. And I was like, you're not like disappointed that I lost? And they're like, no, it was a great fight, and they were talking me through the fight, and I was just like, yeah, it was a great fight, actually. It was a great fight, and there's plenty of things to improve on, and there's plenty of things to be proud of, and that's what happened. It was a fight.
Yeah, because that just seems amazing that you have these guys round about you to kind of nurture you in those moments, because those moments, like, they might seem small in the grand scheme of things, like losing an amateur MMA fight, but what you said, that can affect your confidence outside as well.
Well, it can go down to, like, but that's where the good coaches separate themselves from the great coaches. So the great coaches have to manage at that point, and it's not just me, but I'm going to make reference to me. Like, they have to understand, like, how do I remember, like, messaging and talking about my knee injury. I remember messaging one of my coaches, Ian Martin, and said, like, this is the news, I'm out for a couple of months. And he just sent me a text. It was just like, I was like, not emotional and crying, but I was gutted. I thought like the world had ended. And he was just like, 2-3 months, summer holidays, enjoy your summer, like, relax, don't worry. And I was like, and he kind of like, see how I say about not being too high in the highs, not being too low in the lows. I felt like pure rock bottom, and then I was like, no, he's right. Okay, yeah. I'm okay. And that, it goes down to my management. So, like, walking into the gym and my coaches are not like, you should have done this, you should have done that, or they're just, right, okay, let's move on. We've got information from that fight, not making a big deal about it. And that's where I say it separates the good coaches from the great coaches, and that's why I'm in a great position. I'm in a great environment, and I'm very blessed. I was going to say lucky there, but
do you feel that, like, you were talking about good coaches and great coaches, do you think, like, the great coaches, the guys that can kind of manage, they have to have done what you've done to some degree? So they've had to have at least a couple of amateur fights or some pro fights to really understand what you guys are going through? Or do you think a guy can just train, never really have a fight, have a hobby, and then just have a gym?
If you've never had a fight, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard to make reference to how that person's feeling in the prep break, because there's things that, again, talk about my management. Let's say, I don't know, I can't think of something, but let's say you hear some bad news or something on the day of a fight, or your opponent changes or something. See if the coach is stressed, it's going to pass on to the fighter. I can't think of an example because I'm not really, I don't really have bad experiences with my coaches and my team. But so if I think in the good experiences, like, the good coaches are like calm, relaxed, they know how to manage it, and they know how you're feeling through that experience. So, like, fights, like, I think for me, my coaches have been through that. They've been there, done that, wore the t-shirt, and they kind of set the bar high for me. Like, for instance, the last 2 fights, I've wore Cage Warriors gloves, and they're Dean's old Cage Warriors gloves. He gave them to me after his last fight. So for me, it's like, they're in a pedestal. So I listen to them, I trust them, because they've been there. They know exactly, they've got all that experience, and they're helping me with my journey this time. But also to make sure that they know me, they've been working with me, and they get the best out of me. So I've got the best of both worlds. But again, if I try to answer that, I never just say, because there are great coaches out there who have never had a fight in their life.
Yeah.
I would say the majority of the time, nothing is ever universal. Like, it has to be this way. But I do think it's the majority of the time you are better to have fighting experience. So it depends, but majority, it's you're probably going to sway towards the coaches who have got that experience to pass on to an extent.
Because it can be the small margins as well. It can be something like cutting weight. Like, see if you're cutting weight with someone who knows what it's like to cut weight. But you know, because you obviously know, but better than kind of most, what it's like to cut weight and how agitated you can get. So see if you've got a guy in there that you know has never done it, and they're talking about how easy it is, how you can do it. You would go absolutely nuts.
I remember I just knew Dean before his last fight, and it was like, again, Dean from day one has been amazing to me. Like, he was probably the person who felt that I felt that I belonged at the Griphouse, because he, like, not took me in, but like, he's just amazing for me, like as if I knew him for years from day one. So we were walking into the city centre. Like, I only knew him like a month, and he had a fight in a couple of weeks, and I was like, I was dead nervous, and I'm around this pro fighter. I'm like, you seem dead agitated, like pure. And he's like, yeah, this is what cutting weight does to you, and it always sticks with me. It always sticks with me. That's what cutting weight does to you. That what I say, and I'm like, he gets it. So see if I'm a bit like quiet or whatever, or tired. That's a big thing. Like, see if you're tired. Coaches aren't freaking out like, he's got a fight in 2 weeks. Well, he's cutting weight, or he's got an injury, or he's tired from training, or like, they know exactly what it takes to prepare for a fight.
And I imagine they know when to approach you and when to leave you alone. So there might be a time where you're just sitting there with your headphones in, trying to get in the moment before a fight. They'll know that's your kind of moment. That just kind of leave them, and then they take that step back, and they know when to approach you and when to kind of, and the right things to say as well.
Yeah, exactly. I do that when I warm up. I go and take some time to myself, and they just go and do what they need to do. And when I'm ready, they're like, right, do you want to warm up now? I'm like, yep, I'm ready, let's go. Getting talking about it, but yeah, exactly. But with that being said, I really need to understand when to talk to them, because I need to stop messaging them during the
night. So we're kind of talking about like the kind of importance of having good trainers around you. How's that fared you during COVID when nothing's really been going on?
It's been good, because I've got coaches who are passionate, and they have been continuing to keep things up. Like, a perfect example is like Guy Ramsey's doing online classes, Facebook Live classes, where you could essentially either do nothing or you could just put it for your members, but he's put it out there for the world to see. But that's just an example. But Dean as well, like, even during the first lockdown, I would send him like 12-15 rounds of doing bag work, and he would, or like FaceTime, and he would pick things out to improve. And again, good strength and conditioning coaches who not are on me, but give me plans no matter what facilities that I've got. And yeah, I've got good passionate coaches who have still been taking an interest in trying to improve and make me better.
Because
staying in touch.
No,
it's not all about like the technique and stuff, but even just like just staying in touch and being in contact, that's so important as well. Having a friendship with these guys, a relationship.
Yeah, because that comes back to kind of the man management stuff you were talking about earlier, but just how they are with you. Because I seen some of the Griphouse stuff, and they were doing. I just wanted to ask what was actually going on here, because they were doing a lot of stuff with swords.
Yeah.
What was that? Because
that's sword fighting.
Right.
Swords. Yeah.
Ah, right. Do you ever do
that? No. I threw an axe a couple of times, and I done, and I was absolutely awful. So, I've not done sword fighting, and I think it's probably because Guy Ramsey's scary enough. Never mind when he's got a sword. So I think I would just back off. But no, I've never done it.
No, that could be
it's good though. It's a very popular class, and a big selling point is you can be socially distant at it, because it's like a good outdoor sport, because Now I'm not doing it any justice, but you are at a distance because of the swords, and also you'll be kitted up and protected, I think.
Right, aye.
I hope I'm not giving misinformation here, but I think that would be the case.
No, I think you're right, because I follow the Griphouse on Instagram, and that was one of the, like, after, see, like when we had that wee period like a few months ago when there was only certain classes that were allowed to run. I'm sure that was one of the classes that was running, was the sword fighting, and that's why, because they had a wee description on like why that can run, and I'm sure you've hit the nail on the head there.
Yeah, outdoor sessions. So no, it's definitely fun. I know everybody who takes part, they always have fun with it.
Yeah.
I guess it's legal swords and throws, like, you know, yeah.
And it seems to me as well that would bring a kind of whole new demographic to the gym. Like, there's, I don't like to use this word, but there's like kind of maybe geeks or nerds out there who are really into that kind of role play type stuff. Like, there's guys that go out and like have sword fights at the weekend, and I can imagine that's a good stepping stone for them to get into a gym. Then they might look and go, oh, these striking classes, and getting involved that way.
I think the Griphouse, and most fight gyms about this, but I can only speak for, again, the Griphouse and Inverclyde Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They've got an environment where everyone in all walks of life will go to the classes, like Muay Thai, boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, obviously when the gym is back open, sword fighting, like everything that we do, strength and conditioning, like everybody in all walks of life, there's no like there's no inequality in terms of who we welcome at the gym. Like, just turn up, work hard, and don't be a nasty person, pretty much.
And that might be, like, just what you've said there, I think that could be really, really interesting to a lot of people at home, because a lot of people at home might have misconceptions about MMA gyms, and maybe who goes to MMA gyms, or like that type of people, like that type of thing, because they might see it as like old school boxing gyms where it's only really the kind of tough of the tough, and the strong survive and the weak kind of left to die, essentially.
Yeah. So it's not like that at all, but I think with anything that's a misconception, you have to experience it to understand that that's not the case. I've got various misconceptions in my life, but the reality is I won't know about it until I experience it and go, that wasn't actually the way I thought it was. But we're a nice bunch.
Because I think that's probably one of the best things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you might just see a guy in the corner of a pub with a backpack on, a pair of Converse and some rolled up jeans, and you would never look at that and look at them, but that guy could fold you up like a deck chair.
No, definitely. That's why you just treat everyone with respect. You don't really know anyone's background. Not only if they can fight, but you don't know what struggles they're going through in their life as well. So you want to go and pick on someone who's probably out on that night out or in that pub just to release from a stressful week, or you're going to go and pick on someone that could actually batter you. So just be nice. Just be nice to people. It's not hard.
Because do you ever get that? Like, do you ever get guys that know you're a professional MMA fighter and come up and kind of give you a wee bit of hassle?
Nah, not at all. Like, on the rare occasion when I do go night outs, like if I go night outs in Greenock or Gourock, it's a brilliant night. Like, everyone's amazing in terms of like coming up and recognizing, like, not recognizing me because that would make me look like a pure celebrity, but recognizing like what I do. Like, oh, you had a fight, when's your next fight? And everybody's like so supportive. I've never really had that. Like somebody try to square out with me, I'll just tell them to stop wasting their time and go and enjoy their night.
That's the confidence you have when you know you can batter 90% of Greenock or 99% of Greenock.
And they probably all still do me in, to be fair. I don't fight in the streets, I fight in the cage.
Because we'll take a wee sidestep from MMA now, and I've been practicing a lot how to pronounce this, because it's not the easiest to pronounce. So you've got a new brand going on.
Yeah.
Conatum. Have I said
Conatum.
that? Yes. I've written it down a bit of paper, like how it sounds. So I've put how a Wayne learns to say things. So I wrote like con brackets et and then so I'm glad I got that right. So tell us a wee bit about Conatum.
So Conatum's a brand that was it was just born through a friendly conversation with one of my friends, Grant Ruxton, who also runs a digital marketing company called Boyd Digital, who also been sponsoring me for the past year. Grant happens to train at the Griphouse as well, so we're talking about this supportive, friendly environment. Again, me and Grant were just talking about. Grant was just giving me lots of words of advice, and I was doing some T-shirts like with my name on them, and he was giving me some advice on how to like maybe package that up. And he was telling me like ideas that we could do this, and we could work with this company, and like loads of different ideas. And then he was like, we could make our own coffee, and I was like, oh, that sounds good. Like, I thought, so do you want to do it? I thought, sorry, what? He's like, so do you want to work together and like start this brand? I was like, sure, and that sounds amazing. And again, Grant, with the creative mind that he's got and business brain that he's got, came up with the idea of like the brand being called Conatum, which is Latin for endeavour, and like endeavour means to give it your all and always work hard. So he essentially put what I always like my fighting principles and my fighting concepts into like a brand. And we started off with some coffee, some fresh coffee, like the most natural pre-workout that you'll get. And we've got some new products on the way and some food rubs that you can season your food with.
Right.
So again, the purpose of the brand, again, it's to like, say like coffee, for instance, like do you want to train like an athlete? Let's have like the pre-workout in to enhance your performance, to increase your alertness, like what caffeine does. And then in terms of your food, nobody wants to eat bland food, do they? Because if you're eating healthy or if you're dieting or whatever you're doing, you're not going to last with bland food. So we've made some food rubs from scratch, like that are top notch, and they'll make your meal feel successful and victorious, and you'll want to eat that food that you've been demonizing for so long. You'll want to actually eat the food, you'll like the meals, and you'll move on from there. And that's what we were providing with the brand.
Because your coffee, that's all ethically sourced as well, isn't it? I'm sure it's in that on the website.
Yep.
So like the benefits, like to someone that's maybe no like a professional athlete, what benefits would they get for drinking the coffee?
So it's coffee's caffeine. That's what coffee is. It's good tasted caffeine. It's obviously became a wee bit more commercialized now. It's like something that you do. You get a coffee before you start your day, or in terms of that. But you don't need to be a professional athlete to have the coffee or the food rubs. But you just need to. You don't need to do anything. Like the coffee will be. It's got good caffeine, so it's going to obviously, if you are looking to train, it's a good pre-workout. It's a natural pre-workout. It's a pre-workout that doesn't have all the stuff that your pre-workouts are going to tend to have. It's going to make you feel jittery, and it's going to make you feel, and it's got loads of other chemicals in it. It's natural, and caffeine in general has got loads of studies on it that it's going to increase your alertness and wake you up when you feel tired. Like caffeine's born and made to and designed to keep you awake. That's why it's recommended that you don't have caffeine 8 hours before you go to sleep. Like there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be a professional athlete. You don't need to be going for a workout like that. The coffee is going to be suitable for you if you're working from home, or you're working, or you've got a long day ahead of you. You're on night shift. You need to get the kids up from school. Like every walk of life, like in every way possible. That's where the coffee comes into play.
See,
it tastes amazing.
That's a great sell. But you laughed when I said the Scottish Jordan Belfort earlier.
Sell me a bag of coffee. But that the same goes with like the food rubs. These aren't out yet, but they're great as well, because again, you go back to like, you don't need to be a professional athlete to eat food.
No,
you don't need to do that, and we all will buy like, we'll make a joke about this, but we all will buy like seasoned food already seasoned. But we are bringing the seasoning to you. Like buy your fish, buy your vegetables, buy your chicken, buy any form of meat that doesn't have seasoning on it. Cook it, put some rub on it, and when we release the products, we'll release how you can have some of these rubs in your meals to be successful. It's not all about winning fights. It's about actually just enjoying your life, enjoying your food, having stuff that's going to get you through the day.
And help provide people with a kind of better quality of living as well. Because if they're able to eat healthy food, then all the benefits of healthy food.
It's going to be there in a performance enhancing way, of course, because if you're dieting or you're healthy, and it's going to be suitable for athletes, but it's not just for athletes, it's for everyone.
Yeah.
If you're an athlete, great, and if you're not an athlete, great. That's fine. It's for everyone. And if you do want to, sorry, you have another question?
No, go ahead. I feel a sales pitch is coming.
No, I was just saying, if you do want to learn more about the brand, we do obviously have a website, but catch us on Facebook and catch us on Instagram, or shoot me a direct message, and I'll guide you towards that account.
Because I'll put the Instagram and the website in the bio for the video, so anyone that wants to check it out can check it out. Can I see the brand, like the coffee again? Because
of course. Your bag's on its way. Is that right?
Yes. That'll be here, and I'll be drinking it. But in the next episode, probably, I'll be doing my hype man job. It's all right.
You'll be comparing my sales pitch to like what's like. This is it. This is what's actually happening. So yeah, the brand, like, to make the brand, like, again, the birth of the brand was Grant. When we put all the foundations, when Grant put all the foundations in place, I said, I know a designer who also trains at the Griphouse. And of course, you've got the Griphouse fighter Reece McEwan up there, and it's a Griphouse Eagle. It's on this brand. And it's don't take more than one shot. That's the.
I was thinking it looked very familiar with the Eagle. It's just twigged in my brain. That's what it is. It's on the. I've seen it on the Griphouse Insta. It's on the wall when you walk in, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the wall. It's an amazing brand. Like the Eagle itself, it's a very strong look, and it's such a privilege to have that on a brand with my name on it.
You were talking about your t-shirts as well. Are you still doing them, just in case anyone at home wants to buy one?
I'm not doing them. They're all completely sold out. I've done 2 different orders on them. I will probably have white ones in the future though. So if you do want to maybe put a pre-order in, then of course you can message me. But I had black t-shirts with essentially the Griphouse fighter and a big Griphouse Eagle on the side. And again, the support and response for the t-shirts were outstanding. So they all sold out. I've done 2 different orders for them. So that was amazing. I feel like I'm just using the Griphouse Eagle everywhere.
I'm sure they'll be happy as well, because it'll gets the Griphouse out there. So empty bins.
No, the Griphouse has been like life changing for me. So it's like so nice just to not get back, but it's so nice just to be a part of the gym and a part of the environment. And it's a privilege to wear the t-shirt and have a brand with the Eagle on it. And it's honestly it's a place that I searched. I said I want to train there, and now I'm part of the team. It's just incredible.
I think everything you're saying now, I think that's all the amazing aspects of mixed martial arts and young people getting involved in martial arts. It's far more than just fighting. It's like a family. It's a community essentially that you're involved in. Especially guys like yourself, because like we touched on it a wee bit earlier, but you're involved with the Griphouse there, kind of under a banner. Wait, is it 2 different gyms? Is it higher level and the D unit?
The D unit, yeah, and we've got loads of affiliated other gyms. We're under a banner for grappling, for Real Grappling Club. That's where like Inverclyde Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes through. Like Ingo Martin runs that gym, and you've got gyms in Aberdeen, and so like that's cool as well. And Stevie Ray's gym, I think he's under the Real Grappling banner too. So, but in terms of the Dinky Ninjas as well, like yeah, it's just a massive community. It's great.
Because when it comes to your grading, because you were talking there about being a purple belt, who is it at grade shoes?
Ingo Martins does my belts. He's gave me my blue belt, and he gave me my purple belt.
Brilliant. It's just sometimes you never hear like Brazilian jiu-jitsu's get kind of like practitioners kind of getting graded, and it's no Marcos. But I think Marcos has just got such a big hand in the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community in Scotland.
If you're looking for the, like, obviously I'm still under the Griphouse banner, but it would be Gary Christie and Paul McVeigh. And then
Yeah.
for higher level, you'll have like James Dillon and Danny Gray. So loads of black belts, and loads of people who oversee the grappling side of each gym. So we're in good hands.
Just to kind of stay in the topic of like kind of marketing, like how important is it, like marketing yourself in mixed martial arts?
I think marketing wise, like you've got to put yourself in the promoter's shoes. Like, see when the promoter comes to get you, and put you on their show, like what are you going to give them? That's what it ultimately comes down to. Like, you have to show that you're worth to them. Like, either through pay-per-views or tickets, you have to show them that I will make you money.
Yeah.
Put me on your card and I'll make you money, and you will get your shot. You obviously have to be good at fighting, but if you're good at fighting, you have to. I always like to think, like, I want to be the best in the world, and I want everyone to know I'm the best in the world.
Yeah.
Pretty much. When a promoter comes to me and says, "Oh, I've got this show," I'm like, "Okay, then, give me this amount of tickets and I'll sell them for you," or like, "Give me the link to the pay-per-view and I'll sell more pay-per-views than the rest of the cards." Like, that's the mindset I've got, and that's just all based on like selling loads of tickets for my whole career. So in terms of marketing for yourself, you've got to be valuable to promoters in order to get an opportunity in this sport.
Because just
in my opinion.
Yeah. Just because you were touching on promoters a wee bit there, has your experience with promoters always been positive, or have you ever had a negative experience with promoters within Scotland?
No, they've all been great. I've mainly only really fought. I've only fought in 4 shows actually. No, 5 shows. But every promoter that I've had has been amazing to me, and I hope I've given back to them, because I'm always grateful for the opportunity that they've given me. They've given me a platform for me to fight. So I always like to think, like, let me give back to you, and I'll get you tickets, and I'll get you pay-per-views, because without you, this fight wouldn't happen. That's the way I see it.
And I think that's another positive for people at home that maybe aren't involved in the scene to hear, because I think a lot of people might have misconceptions and think a lot of like MMA promoters are essentially like Don King for Mike Tyson, but kind of underground, kind of shady wee guys. But it's good to hear that they are really looking out for young fighters like yourself, and they do seem to have your best interest at heart.
Now, the Scottish scene, the promoters that are in the game, they're outstanding, and they've been good. Like, I got a reminder, not a reminder, but like James Dillon shared a thing. It was like to do with on tops. I think it was maybe a 10 years ago, and it was him fighting. It was for the first on top, and you look for on top, for example, like what they've done for the sport over the last 10 years. They've had like all the UFC fighters minus Paul Craig on their shows at one point.
Yeah.
So these shows are providing the platform for us from the grassroots level, and giving us the opportunity to build up. They're giving us the opportunity to build experience with the media, like media there for interviews, and they're making like the many UFC professional shows in such an early stage of your amateur career. So they're doing an amazing job.
Because is it MMA UK that deal with interviews after? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember the woman's first name, but it's Kavanagh that does a lot of them.
Is it Amy Lee? I think maybe.
Amy Lee Kavanagh. That's I should know that.
Peter Knoxon's MMA UK, if I'm right in saying.
Yeah. So that's good as well. It gives you kind of a sample of what life's going to be like after on top.
No, definitely.
Predators.
Like every interview, including it again, I'm grateful for you for giving me this opportunity to talk and get experience in front of a camera. Because if let's say I'll go through my amateur and professional career and don't talk to a single camera, and then the UFC puts a camera in front of me, I'm going to be like, what's this? What's going on, guys? Right? But if the UFC puts a camera in front of me now, but okay, it's fine, I've had this experience, and nothing really changes. It's still a camera. I'm talking to people. Obviously, the exposure is going to be much greater, but ultimately, we're not thinking about how many people are watching it. Right? I'm just talking to you, and it won't be till I look back and I'll watch and I'll go, what have I done? But yeah, you're right.
It's all right. We challenge Joe Rogan, whatever YouTube views. It's fine. You get the same audience. It's fine.
Well, yeah, no, 100% will be on. Yep, get it be shared everywhere, everyone. So if you're watching this and you've share it.
I,
Please.
I like how you put the but please in as if come on.
What was I saying? You just be nice to everyone. It's not hard to just please be nice and let's help each other out.
Because where do you see your career going? Like, say in 5 years' time, where do you want to be? Like 31 years old, where will Reece McEwan be?
The sport is so, it's not black and white at all. Like, I can't explain that. People always say, how'd you get to the UFC? And I'm like, I actually can't tell you because I don't know. Like, nobody knows how to get to the UFC. You just keep fighting and hopefully you get your shot. But in 5 years' time, I see myself in the UFC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be amazing to see. Like, we need more Scottish guys in the UFC. I think we need someone to come in with a lot of charisma, a lot of character, to kick the door down for Scottish MMA. Like, I feel bad a lot of time for a lot of Scottish guys because I don't feel a lot of the Americans that get the same opportunities are as good.
Yeah, the European scene's a hard scene.
It's fully a lot of tough fuckers. Let's see some of the countries in Europe, but a lot of the countries that are kind of war torn as well. But you're going in against absolute fucking head cases.
I remember I went to New York for the second time I went to New York and I trained with this guy and he's like, whoa, like you guys in Scotland and England and well, actually Scotland and Ireland, but I'll include England in that. He said, oh, I didn't realise like how good the level is. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, how many fights you had? I was like, I've had 5. He's like, geez, always like, and he was telling me who he was. And I was like, yeah, we don't get enough credit because it's a hard scene up here. See some of the guys that you fight and some of the guys that don't even fight. Like, and you look at the scene in terms of jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai and MMA, it's got some high level people, but again, it's just getting through that market. And like when you're in Cage Warriors and you're fighting for the belt and stuff, you're fighting UFC level guys. Like there's no doubt about that. You're just fighting them on that European scene. It's just having to be the elite of the elite to get there.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I feel sometimes it's just getting your chance at the right time and just kind of capitalising on that chance that can just completely change your career.
Yeah, definitely. Like there was a last year in the pandemic, like they were like there was a joke. I can't remember what it was, but obviously I had one fight at the time when the pandemic hit, and I was like, I wonder if the UFC need a fight if you're. But there is obviously like we talk about like timing and stuff. There's a time for that. Like I do see myself in the UFC in 5 years, and if I took it now, if I got offered a shot now, it'd probably be very silly to take it because I wouldn't be ready.
Yeah,
that's the reality. There's levels to this game that'd be silly. So I need to keep racking in the experience, getting the fights. Because the way I see it, like I'd like to go to Cage Warriors. I'd love to fight for them and win their belt. But the way I see it, like when I'm in Cage Warriors and they give a contract, I'm like, I'm winning the belt in that within that contract. And I get to the UFC and they go, here's your 4 fight. Right, okay, I'm here to. You're going to be glad you signed me. Like I'm not here to like make up the numbers. So when that opportunity does come, it will be the right time. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'll be there and I'll prove a point and win fights and win titles and break records.
That's it, and we've got every faith in you. Because I was watching some of your fights. I was watching your professional fights before we came on the podcast, and there's a kind of misconception about European guys and how they're just kickboxers, whereas your fights, you show that isn't you. Like you're not just a kickboxer. Like you are a top level grappler as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
It was a Darce choke you got Danny missing with, wasn't it?
It was a Japanese necktie.
Right, Japanese necktie.
Yeah. I don't know what typology that. I don't know if they've got the time. It was like 35 seconds or something. I think it was 37 seconds.
I looked
if it's in my Instagram post, that's.
I looked it up on typology, and it was saying 1 minute 42 seconds with a Darce choke, and I was at because I'm not great with the names of chokes, and I was at maybe it was a Darce choke, But I was at it, definitely wasn't 1 minute 42 seconds. I was at it was lightning quick.
It was very fast. But no, it was good. Good choke.
Yeah. So how have you felt with your first two pro fights? That because you've just went in, essentially took the guys down and just done what you wanted with them. Did you feel it was going to be a lot more difficult, or is this what you train for every day and you know the level that you're at?
I know the level I'm at. Like, for instance, the first fight, my first finish came in like 3 minutes 40 seconds. And I remember my coach Ingo Martin saying to me when I turned pro, he said, "Oh, that these 5 minute rounds are going to suit your style more. Like, you can actually break someone down over 5 minutes. 3 minute fight is like a sprint, so it's hard to actually get a finish in 3 minutes."
Yeah.
So my first fight, that being 3 minutes 40 seconds, I thought he was right. That he's right. I broke that guy down. If that was an amateur fight, we'd have went into the second round.
Yeah.
So that was fine. And then the second time, again, what Ian said to me was, like, you've been the people you've been training with are much better than you. So you are trying these submissions and these things that are not working on them because they're better than you. So see, when you go and try this on this guy, he's not going to get out it like it has been in your preparations. I was like, okay. Boom, first submission done. And I was like, you were right. Exactly what you said. Again, about the 5 minutes and about the quick finish, you were right. So, but that being said, I prepare for 3 hard rounds, of course.
Yeah.
But when I'm preparing for a fight and when I'm walking out to fight, I know the level I'm at. There's a small window where you realise how good, like, the level you're at. And the day of a fight, I'm like, nah, this is my day and this is my night, and I've trained so hard and I'm going to walk through this person. At the first opportunity I get, I'm putting them away, and that's what's happened.
Because your first fight, that was against Malek Grib, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Because that was one we're just talking about, and what you were saying there about how the pro fighting probably suits your style, that seems to make a lot of sense, because your first two pro fights have been back-to-back stoppages, whereas like, a lot of your amateur career, it was unanimous decision victories.
Yeah.
So it does seem that the pro life, like the pro style, probably does suit you a bit better.
No, definitely, and again, I'm going to have a lot of decision wins because I personally feel that the decision wins were because I was fighting such good guys. Like, you watch it out every day, Matt. I fought the number one amateur in England, Ireland, Japan, like, but basically back to back. And every fight I was in, I was the least experienced. My last amateur fight was the only fight I went into and I had the same amount of experience as the guy, and I won in 47 seconds.
Because that all comes back to what you were saying earlier as well, though. Like you were saying, if you're going in and you're running through these guys and you've never experienced diversity, you've never went for amateur, it's like 9 minutes, but you've never went that kind of distance. When someone does push you in that distance, you could fold. So I think you having that experience, because it comes back to one of these quotes I heard, and I think the quote's amazing. It's fatigue makes cowards of us all.
Yeah.
So you've kind of been there and experienced, although it's 6 minutes less, it's still a good time to be fighting as well.
No, definitely. 100%. I agree.
Yeah. So just to kind of wrap things up a wee bit as well, did you catch any of the fights over the weekend?
The only fight that I've seen was the Rivera and Munoz fight, and that was absolutely mental. Like, in terms of like the calf kicks and the power shots, but it sounds like that was kind of like the only. I hate dissing fighters, but the only exciting fight of the card.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the main event was quite uneventful, but I think we need to appreciate that it's two guys that weigh over 230 pounds. One punch can take 10 years off your life.
Yeah. It makes you, definitely. Like, it's easy to. It's exciting. I hate saying fights are boring because I know how much goes into them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to pretend that I watched them. But the Rivera Munoz fight was outstanding.
It's amazing how much that low calf kicks caught on. But that's just I just came in recently, and it's something that's really effective.
Yeah, it's been around for years, to be fair. It's just obviously becoming more prominent in some of the fights now. But what you'll find is like the waves, things come in waves in MMA. So in a couple of months or a couple of fights, they'll stop happening because people are catching on to it. They'll be training it more and they'll be preparing for it more. Like I've trained with Jimmy Rivera. He's kicked me in the calf, and I tell you something, it's not pretty. Like, so for him to be, so I guarantee if he's kicking people in the calf, they're kicking him back. So for him to like be taking those kicks off Munoz and like a few times, like it floored him, it like not wobbled him is the footwork. So for that, Munoz must have been kicking so hard, and Rivera caught him with some amount of shots that would have put your lights out for about 3 days. And
it's that way as well. Like, see if you are fighting a guy like Jimmy Rivera who hits really hard and he loads a lot in his power. I think if you're kicking his leg away, kind of doing that balance an injustice, and meaning that he can't lean as much on one leg, I think the chances of taking away his power, even if it's only 10% his power, it can do a lot for you in the fight.
It definitely is. Like when you've been hit with a proper bad calf kick, like you are so for days. Like, it's ridiculous. I wish, like, people talking about like McGregor, Poirier, I wish I could kick some of these people in the calf and see if they'll say that they give in. But I shouldn't be listening. That's my bad. I shouldn't be listening to what other people are saying. But the calf kicks are awful.
But it must be annoying. Like, see if you're someone that's done all this and you're just hearing people talking about absolute ignorance. Because I used to train Muay Thai years ago, and one of my mates, he was a bit like a British champion, and his kicks were probably the most horrendous thing I've ever experienced. I could only compare it to childbirth, because he used to do like a running low kick.
Yeah.
And if you've been hit with that, like, you just appreciate life a wee bit more. You're like, I'm so glad I've survived it.
No, it's like awful. Like, people always talk about like getting hit in the head and stuff, but see getting hit in the body, and it's horrendous. But again, it's one of those ones that you want to experience. And as a fighter, when you see all these mad comments, can't really take them seriously. I can sometimes be bad. I'll like maybe some of my friends will say stuff and they'll look for a bite, and I will bite. I'll bite in pure. But again, that's someone's opinion. So can't really control what they think. So don't tend to put my time into it.
When you fight, do you ever read the comments about a fight that you've had? Like, do you read it?
Well, I wouldn't really say a fight in the. I wouldn't say I've had that much. Like, see if like for instance, like Jimmy Rivera, he'll have thousands of people commenting on his fights. I wouldn't say I've had that. But yeah, I sometimes I do follow the posts and stuff. I used to be maybe bad for researching my opponent, but now it's like experience. I don't really care anymore. Like, I've seen things like when I fought the boy down in England, and I've seen people saying like, "Oh, it's like you're going to show my lesson," and I was just like, "That's fine. That's like maybe your uncle, your cousin, or your pal saying that. Of course, I'm going to say that. Like, I'm not going to say you're going to get done in. Like,
aye,
my family and my friends will probably say the same thing, but so I do read them. I don't get my way to it, but I do read them, but it doesn't really faze me. When I say I read them, I'm on a post and they're there. I'm not going to get my way to find them. So if a post that I've been tagged in and somebody's commented, I'm like, oh, what's this? Because maybe I think it's somebody saying something nice about me, and then turned out they're not, and that's just the way it is.
So you don't search your name on Twitter?
No, I didn't even know you could do that. Can you? I will now. I'll probably will now.
There's a search bar. Let's see, like, when you type in someone's like Twitter handle, if you type what words in there, like any words, so you could type in Reece McEwan, and anyone that's ever spoke about Reece McEwan, it will come up. So see if you were to type in Reece McEwan MMA, any time that your name's been referenced round about MMA. So see if someone goes, watching an MMA fight this weekend, really hyped, can't wait to see Reece McEwan, you'll see that post.
All right.
I probably should do that.
I wouldn't search it. Nah, because nothing good will come from it.
Yeah.
If there's something that I need to know, then I'll know about it. And if I don't know about it, then there's a reason. So, yeah.
I'll just rapidly delete all my tweets calling you a dick.
That's fine. That's okay. You just told me you've done it anyway, so I don't need to go into it. No, that's cool.
So, like you were saying about researching your opponent, there is that something you would advise against? But the reason I'm asking is because I was listening to a podcast with Paul Craig. It was something he done a couple of years ago after the Magomed Ankalaev fight, and he was saying that Brian never told him never told him about Ankalaev's background. So, like for example, Ankalaev was like a master of sport. I think it was either judo or samba. Samba, but he dances. Sambo, and he was saying that he didn't know any of that, and he felt it helped him, especially towards the end of the fight, because he caught him with like 3 seconds to go, and I think he was kind of insinuating if he knew the guy's background, he'd always had the doubt in the head, whereas he didn't, and that allowed him to get the finish.
I guess that's good man management.
Yeah.
There's a time and a place for knowing there's some things. Again, that really comes down to your coaches or fights. Where my first K1 fight, I didn't really. I remember guys saying to me, he's had a couple of fights, right? And then a couple of months later, I seen this opponent look for a K1 fight, and he's 8-1. And I was like, guy, couple of fights, but that's good man management. He never told me how many fights he has. It's my first K1 fight. But then sometimes you might need to tell you the fighter that they've got this submission up their sleeve, be careful of it. Or like again, a perfect example is a jiu-jitsu competition, right? I said to Ian, I don't want to know anything about this guy. I want to just, and he was like, okay, you don't want to know anything. And then after the fight, he was like, I didn't want to say, but he'd a problem. And I was just like, yeah, but again, that's my management. I told him, no, I don't want to know anything. So now if my coaches tell me something, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
So I understand that if they tell me something they're really good at, they're telling me that for a reason. Or they'll give you words of advice, like for instance, like again, going into that jiu-jitsu competition, I remember Ian saying, nobody will pass your guard. I was like, okay, I'll pull guard then. And you just get to think that, like the coach will just think that wee bit of positivity or plant a wee seed for you to go away with, take that information. It comes down to man management. So again, I can't say yes and no. I won't personally go and look up these things. I will watch the fights one time. I've got a 1 fight rule. That's it. Yeah. 1 fight rule, and my coaches will look at it. But I should be prepared for everything.
Yeah. Because I was thinking there as well. You get the kind of total opposite side of the coin, where you get guys like Mark Henry, who just sits and spends a lot of his time analysing footage.
Yeah.
And kind of make sure that his fighter is prepared as he can be. So, like, say for example, you're fighting someone that's got a tendency, like John Jones is a great example, but he knew that Daniel Cormier's tendency was to kind of drop. Like, I think he dropped his right, and that allowed John Jones to get the head kick.
Exactly. There's going to be benefits to both.
Yeah.
It just comes down to what suits you, and ultimately, I think what it comes down to is don't be focused. Put all your attention onto yourself. Of course, you need to allocate some time to your opponent or whatnot, but ultimately, it comes down to like you. If you get caught in that sub or you get knocked out, there's a borderline between bad preparation maybe on you and your coach's part, but ultimately, just focus on yourself and take the information from that fight onto the next fight, and that's fighting. Don't be expected to be the perfect article every time you fight. Like, go in there, be the best you can be, do everything you can, fight, get that information, no matter win, lose or draw, focus on the process and be better next time.
Because something that I feel a lot of people are really interested in is, how do you feel about someone before you step in the cage with them? So say for example, when you were fighting Danny Misson, or we'll take him, because that was your last fight, and we'll take the first fight of your career, like your first amateur fight. How did you feel about your opponents going in? Like, did you feel anger towards them, or did you just see this as a sport?
Nah, I didn't think anything about them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't focused on them at all. My very first fight, I thought, this guy's scary, he's got a tattoo and stuff, like, he's older, he's 8 years older. That's just an experience, so I wouldn't really count that, but I was just like, I remember, I've sized my opponent up, I remember I walked by my last opponent and I was like, he's small. But then I would combat that and say, but that's irrelevant. That doesn't mean anything. That what does that mean? He's small. Like, I fought loads of small people. I fought loads of tall people. So I don't think anything about it. When I'm in the cage, I'm just like, right, I'm going through you. I'm going to put my game plan, I'm going to put my style, and I'm going to fight. And we're going to fight, because see when they stare off and the referee's got you both in the middle, and I'm always looking about, and I'm like, it's a bit awkward, isn't it? Like, as we're going to fight each other, like, why are we staring each other out? Like, see if you've got anger towards me, good. If you're emotional towards me, you're scared of me, good. Like, not like, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. I don't feel any emotion in there. All I feel is I'm going to fight, and I'm going to do well, and I'm going to aim to win.
So your style is essentially like a smaller version of Fedor. You're like a bantamweight Fedor, just stare at them.
Bantamweight fit. To be even at that, like, see that stare out stuff, that's not me. Like, see, like, oh, I don't want to be the first one to look away. I'll look away, I don't care. Like, if I look away first, that doesn't mean that you're a better fighter than me. It doesn't mean I'm scared of you. It just means that you're focused on me. You're focused on staring me out. That's all that matters. Again, I remember my first, I remember it was my second fight. I was smiling at my opponent, smiling, and he was just kind of looking at me, like, growling. Just before he walked out to fight, he smiled at me. And I said to Dean, I broke him.
Yeah.
Whether I'm right or wrong, I was like, but he wasn't smiling at me the last few times. And now he's went out his way to smile at me. So I'm in his head.
Yeah.
So I try not focus on anything other than just me being me. Like, I'm not going to try and pretend to be someone I'm not. I'm not going to build up a lot of anger and emotional. And no, that's not going to be it. I'm going to focus on my skills. I'm going to focus on putting my skills on show for everyone to see. And every fight, it never changes. My skills just get better. My mindset just gets better. But the purpose stays the same. Put your skills on show for everyone to see.
Have you ever fought someone that you disliked? But have you ever?
Nah.
No, that's a good thing.
Nah. I put people on pedestals before I fight, which is a mistake and experience. But that's all part of the experience. I hear fighters in the UFC say they do that now. So, and I hope I don't, but it might happen again. But I'm not. I don't know my opponents enough to dislike them or like them.
Yeah, because that's good. Because I hate it when two guys get matched together and it's social media kind of going back and forward, and you're a bit like, I know what you're doing. I know you're trying to sell the fight, but
I know it's got to be real.
Aye, but you've got to really. I feel if you dislike somebody, you've got to kind of dislike them, sort of idea. Like, it's hard to fake that because people catch on really easy because you know what it's like to dislike someone, and you know how you are around them, and you know when people go too far. For example, like Colby Covington is a great example of that. Folk can see right through his act, but that's also
definitely.
act.
I guess it's just it just comes down to who are you. But I guess I can't. I won't ever be fake. I'll just always be myself. And if you don't like me, you don't like me. That's cool. And if you like me, that's cool too. Like, again, it doesn't really impact me. It shouldn't really impact me because I can't be focused on. We talk about reading the comments. I shouldn't be caring about how many people like me or want to, like, a perfect example, social media. How many likes I get and how many people are viewing it. Like, shouldn't be focusing on that. Just put your focus in the gym. Like, it goes back to the very first start. Like, no distractions, nothing else matters but the gym. Focus on training. Focus on being better. Get people to tune into your fights through your skill set, through your genuine passion, your mindset, or whatever you feel. Be good at it, and that's your brand. That's your marketing. That's how you get people to tune into your fights. Be yourself, and if you're tuned in, then great. Thank you for buying the pay-per-view, for buying a ticket. Because I'm going to put on a show for you.
I think
whenever that fight comes.
I think once this interview goes out, there might be a few folk that haven't really seen you before that will now be fans of Reece McEwan, because you've come across very humble, very natural as well, which is always a kind of bonus. And you've been very honest with the answers you've given. You've gave great detail at answers. So just before we go,
I'm also in darkness now as well. So it's a different person.
I've been watching that. It's just been slowly but surely getting darker and darker and darker. It's just going to be a case where we just see the headphones in 5 minutes.
I know, and I need to go out a run as well. So it will just be just get. I was like, I thought I'd be finished at this point. That's what the alarm is to go.
The more we'll see, it's fine. So just before we wrap up, what's your predictions for the UFC fights at the weekend?
Israel Adesanya to win, Peter Yan to win, and Amanda Nunes to win. And although he's not in the top three, I've got to go for Dominic Cruz too, because he's always been a big fan of him.
Absolutely, and I just feel Dominic Cruz is getting hit with some mad disrespect, and it's hurting.
Maybe it's a good thing as well. Like, hopefully he gets back in the win column and builds back up.
Because
he's had a tough time, but he's great.
When it originally came out, he wasn't even the featured prelim. It was Joe Benavidez, which I
hope he wins as well.
Jiu-Jitsu is cool. Is really cool actually, and shout out to him for getting off with Megan O'Leary. He's done well there. So, do you have any social medias that you want to put out there?
Yeah, if you want to follow my journey or tune into me a wee bit more and you enjoy listening to me, first of all, thanks for tuning into the podcast because you've reached this far. So it's just my name, Reece McEwan, on Facebook and Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter too, but I don't really use it. So Facebook, Instagram, and again, if you want to follow the brand Conatum, we've got a Facebook, Instagram, and if websites are your thing, I've got my own website, reecemckewan.com, and we've got Conatum brand, conatumbrand.com as well. I think it's reecemckewan.co.uk actually, but if you type my name in, you'll get it.
I was going to say, I think you were right the first time. I think it's .com, because I think that's how I found it. They'll find it anyway.
Yeah. So that's the social media, that's the websites. And again, thanks very much for listening. Thanks for having me as well.
No worries. Anytime you want to come on, you're more than welcome, because it's been great fun. And remember to like the video, subscribe to the YouTube, all that kind of YouTube bollocks, and we'll see you again.
Yeah, thank you very much, and make sure you put your lights on when you're in an interview.